Right, hello my friends. We're back with some more vintage science fiction for you. Now, I must admit, I'm really enjoying picking this stuff up because it's sort of bringing back waves of nostalgia to me. But nostalgia is a funny thing. I mean, it's, one of these I picked up recently. I mean, I can remember having that, and I look at it and I think, yeah, I can really remember having it and reading it. And the other times you look at a book and you think, I think I had that, but I can't remember ever reading it. And it just some books seem more nostalgic than others, and then other times, I mean, I pick a book up and I think, oh, I can remember actually where I was, where and when I read that. And then other times you look at a book and say, well, I have read it, but I've no idea when. So it kind of it's a strange thing, nostalgia. I suppose like memory, really. I suppose, but yeah. Anyway, enough of that. Yeah, I mean this lot I picked up from the charity shop I normally go to. And it's what I call real vintage stuff. This it's a mixture of actually paperbacks and old, not exactly pulp magazines, but the digest size magazines that came out in the 60s, 70s, early 80s. We've got a few of those. I've got some nice new worlds actually, which quite desirable. Yeah, so anyway, we'll kick off with that one I showed you before. Yeah, I mean, I really remember this book, but I used to read a lot of short stories, so it's not surprising I remember some of them more than others. Can't remember a lot of the stories in it, I've got to say, but so we're looking back 50 years here. Anyway, this is the 1961 edition Mayflower paperback, and it's a first UK printing. And as you can see, it's got some rather stellar authors there. And yeah, as I say, that's the sort of stuff I really enjoyed reading. It's in quite nice condition too, so that's a bonus for 1961. I mean, we're looking at well over 50 years old. Now, likewise, this one in not bad nick. It's already been read a few times, but yeah, these compact books, as I've said to you before, they're kind of collectible in their own right because they're very small print runs compared with mass market stuff like Panther and New English Library and publishers like this. And this is actually a collection of stories from the Science Fantasy magazine, of which I don't have many. I have quite a few of the New Worlds ones, which I'm trying to get a complete set of. But yeah, that's just a compendium, an anthology of stories from as you can see, that's why it's called Reprise 3. I've never seen any of these before, so it was a complete mystery to me that they did these. And this one was published don't know when it was published because it doesn't actually say, which is rather strange. But I would imagine it's 64 or 5, something like that. It's certainly pre 70 because it's got the old pence, shillings and pence sticker on it. So yeah, I was quite happy to pick that one up. And another anthology, Tomorrow Times 4. Edited by Damon Knight. I mean, Damon Knight used to edit a lot of these anthologies, but that's a nice American gold medal book. I take it from the sticker that it was actually distributed over here from the States. So, but it hasn't got, strangely enough, it hasn't got a US price on it. Just the sticker. Maybe the US price is underneath there. But yeah, it's a real old one again. It's from 1964, and I would imagine it's a first American edition, paperback edition that is. And here's one of these nice old ace doubles. Unfortunately, this one's not in the best of condition, as you can see there. It's rather worn down that side, but you know, for what it costs for these, I mean, I don't mind a bit of wear. That's a bit of wear than I would normally like, but because it's a nice double, I decided to go for it. I mean, these, I would imagine this is from the 50s actually. I don't have that many books from the 50s, but just checking the, yeah, it's copyright 1955 by Ace Books, so quite an early one, and it's first. Most of these Ace doubles were original paperbacks, and you got two of them. So yeah, I mean, pity about the condition, but as I say, it's obviously been well read. Right, here's another anthology. Beachheads in Space, another lovely cover. That's a Foursquare British edition, obviously. Again, this August Lethe used to edit quite a lot of these anthologies, and you've got some big names there: Clifford Simak, A.E. Van Vogt, all very famous back in the day, back in the 60s and beyond. And this is first Foursquare edition from 1964. Very nice too. Now this one's an absolute corker. I mean, look at that cover. That is just straight from the pulp magazines of the 1950s. You know, when I mean, everybody thinks that, you know, a lot of the good stuff was written in the 70s and 80s, but no, the 50s, as I've said to you before, was very, very good for for great science fiction stories, especially short stories. And yeah, as I say, that's one of my favourite covers I've seen for a long, long time. And it has stories by, again, Clifford Simak, Sprague de Camp, Paul Anderson, Arthur Clarke. So, you know, a good selection of 8 stories from famous writers. But that's a Belmont US edition, but it's got an English price sticker on it. So obviously it was distributed over here, and I would imagine that's from round about the same time as the others. First printing, Belmont Books, July 1963. So here again, that's 60 years old, isn't it? It's in quite nice condition too. And this one was the only novel that I picked up. It's a very early edition of Record to Life by Robert Silverberg. This is Lancer Paperbacks, who did a lot of science fiction back in the 60s and 70s. This is a American edition that wasn't distributed over here apparently. And again, it's a first US paperback from 1962. That's another 60-year-old book that's in, you know, very, very reasonable condition. And then the rest of the stuff I picked up, and these were only £1 each, which I was quite pleased about. These were all the old magazines that I was telling you about earlier from the 60s. That one's a bit later. That's a fantasy and science fiction, and it's a 45th anniversary issue. But it's got a story from one of my absolute favourite authors there. That's why I picked it up, and it's in very nice condition. All the gloss still there, as you can see. So yeah, I was quite happy with that one. And then the rest of the stuff is from the early 60s. And as I mentioned to you earlier, this is New Worlds magazine before it became a paperback, of which I've shown you about 30 quite a while ago. And I still need another 10, I think, to complete the set, but we'll get there. Yeah, this was a bit more, in terms of content, was a little bit more stuffy than the paperbacks, which tended to print all the new wave stuff. And to be honest, the covers are not great. But yeah, that's volume 37, issue 109, and that is dated August 1961. And then moving on a little bit later was this one. I say these covers are not great. Sorry, we're moving backwards. So this is actually March 1961, a bit earlier. Theodore Sturgeon, quite a famous writer. E.C. Tubb, very prolific, and Brian Orders there. So I mean, there were some good authors, but the stories weren't anything like as sort of new wave. That's the only way I can describe it, as the paperbacks. But nevertheless, it's nice to have some of these old ones before Moorcock took over in 1964, I think it was, when it went over to paperback. That was issue 142. Was the first of the paperbacks. So as you can see, these are quite a bit earlier. This is issue number 124. And as you can see on the front there, it's November 62. There's a picture of Arthur Clarke in his youth. And yeah, it's very, very unusual to see an old science fiction magazine without a cover painting, but obviously they deemed this to be of sufficient importance to warrant a picture of good old Arthur there. So yeah, as I say, these are not in too bad condition. So I don't have any New Worlds, as I say, prior to the books. Right, now we move on to this amazing magazine. These are not quite as famous as the fantasy and science fiction analogue that were printed also, in analogues dates back to the 30s, I think. It was Astounding magazine, then it changed to analogue. And I think it's still going today, actually, analogue. But amazing that these stories in these weren't quite of the same standard as you might expect in FNSF and analogue. But of course, these magazines were the lifeblood of the authors, because it was the only way they could get any money, really. As I've explained to you before, they wrote for these magazines for, I don't know, cent a word, 2 cents a word, whatever they were offering. And then, after they'd had a few printed in here, that's when the hardback publishers sort of said, oh, well, we'll do a hardback version of a collection of his stories, and then it went to paperback where the real money's to be made, and authors started to make a bit more money. But these were very important to the writers in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Before some writers became famous with television scripts and blah blah. So so that's an amazing magazine. That's from August sometime, August 1962. So that's 60 years old, and for a magazine, it's got a little dink out the top there, but it's not in bad nick. And then there's another one. I like this cover. It's a bit crude, but very evocative. Sunfire by Edmund Hamilton, who was like a soap opera guy for a while. But as I say, these all had sort of lurid covers, much like the 50s. I've only got like a couple of Planet stories from the 50s, I wish I'll get some more. But pulps tend to be rather expensive these days. And that is from September 1962. And then the final amazing I picked up was that one. Interesting cover. It looks almost like the xenomorph from Alien, didn't that one? That's where what's his name? The guy, I can't remember his flaming name, who created the xenomorph. That's where he got his ideas from. Because a lot of painters and people who do covers, took a lot of inspiration from some of these old covers. That one has a complete novel in by James Schmitz, whoever he might be. And that one is from April 1963. And then the sister publication was Fantastic. And again, that's a nice cover. I like that one. I've got a couple of books with these covers in. The cover. There's a lot of words, but it's populated by a lot of covers from the old magazines, and I remember this one particularly. But so Keith Laumer, Murray Leinster, both quite popular authors, and that is from December 1962. And then we have another Fantastic there. That one not quite as interesting. The Mirror by Alan Nuss, not quite as prolific as some of the other authors you've seen on the covers, but yeah, and I say these are in bad nick, and that's from 1960, as you can see. So, yeah. And then last but not least, this was a more famous magazine, Galaxy. As you can see, this had an English distribution. Remember seeing these on the old comics from the 60s when I used to stamp them. And we have quite a crude cover there. October 63, that is, yeah. But Galaxy magazine had some good stories in. Amazingly, I mean, that's 60 years old, but it's kept its white pages, and I mean these were printed on very cheap paper, so I mean I don't know where that's been for 60 years, but it's kept its whiteness. Very often pulp magazines and magazines like that tend to go brown over time, but that one has survived the years. So that was that little lot. As I say, they're all from the 60s, so I was particularly pleased because that's my favourite. That's my favourite year for vintage. But I also picked this up for £1 as well. It's not really relevant to today's market, Dictionary of Dealers. The only reason I bought it is because I remember seeing it around quite a bit in the early 70s, I think it was. Basically, it was just a collection of all English, American, Canadian, and a few foreign dealers of sort of fantasy literature. So it covers comics, science fiction, fantasy. And I like the cover by Tim Kirk there. And it's in, still got his dust jacket, so it's not in bad condition. It was just a pure nostalgia item for me, simply because I remember it and I probably had it back in the day. I'm not sure. It's got a $8 price on it, which is quite hefty, but obviously a lot of work went into compiling it. Yeah, it's from 1975, so still nearly 50 years old. As I say, it's in not bad nick at all. So yeah, that was that little lot. I've picked up a few since, but I haven't got enough to do a video. Next up, I've probably got some pickups for you. Yeah, I've picked up a few films and a couple of games, Destiny stuff and other weird gear, which I will present to you, and then after that we'll have to dream something up. Yeah, so anyway, thanks for watching again. Keep subscribing, keep watching, keep sharing if you can. That's the main thing, and I will see you for the next one. Thank you very much. Bye-bye now.